Good morning, everybody, and we're going through the history of Genesis. So, the Genesis was formed in 1967 and they disbanded in 2022, sorry. Now, before we go through the albums, I'll give you the original lineup. Genesis' first lineup was Peter Gabriel on vocals and flute, Mike Rutherford on bass, guitar and vocals, Tony Banks on keyboards and vocals, Anthony Phillips on guitar and vocals, and drums was Chris Stewart on drums. He was, because he owned the farm, that's why. And then we go to Genesis, the second lineup. This was from 68 to 69. Peter Gabriel, still in the band, Mike Rutherford, Tony Banks, Anthony Phillips, and John Silver on drums, and become a TV producer later. Now, for the third lineup, from 69 to 70, you had John Mayhew, Peter Gabriel, Mike Rutherford, Tony Banks, and Anthony Phillips. And Anthony Phillips went on to do some solo work. Now, for Genesis, the fourth lineup was Mark Bakeham, Baknard, guitar, Peter Gabriel, Mike Rutherford, Tony Banks, and this is where Phil Collins comes in, drums and vocals. So Collins coming from a band called Fando Youth, and he joined Genesis on their fourth lineup. So the fifth, Gabriel, Mike Rutherford, Tony Banks, and Steve Collins, and Steve Hacker. Now on this lineup, there's no Phil Collins on drums. And then after that, the fifth, Peter Gabriel went solo. And then on the sixth lineup, it was Mike Rutherford, Tony Banks, Phil Collins, and Steve Hacker. Steve Hacker. That's it, Steve Hacker on guitar. Then the seventh lineup is Bill Brentford on drums, Mike Rutherford, Tony Banks, Phil Collins on drums and vocals, and Steve Hacker. And then the eighth lineup is Chris Thomason on drums, Mike Rutherford, Tony Banks, Phil Collins on drums, and Steve Hacker. And then the ninth lineup was Dave Stannard, Kirk Chester Thompson, Mike Rutherford, Tony Banks, and Phil Collins. And Phil Collins did some solo stuff. So Darren and Chester worked with Phil on his solo stuff. And then the 10th lineup was from 77 to the present day was Anthony Dens on guitar, Mike Rutherford, Tony Banks, Ray Wilson on vocals, and something Zachman on drums. So no Phil Collins on that, but he did join them Because I know his health went downhill and he can't play the drums anymore and that. Oh, we start off with their first album was Trick of the Tail. That was October. Then Nursery Crimes, Foxtrot, the Live on Genesis Live, Selling England by the Pound, Landlord on the Broadway, Wyndham Warren, Seconds Out, and then there were three. Duke, what's this one? Duke and Genesis, I think this one is called. I don't know what. I think that's called Genesis. Then they had Genesis, Invisible Touch. We can't Live on Genesis. I'll go through the albums in. They've done 15 studio albums, 6 live albums, and 10 box sets. So, as we're going through their studio albums, now, the first one I've got on CD is Selling England by the Pound. That's that one. And I don't think we were going through any order. We're just going. And then there's this one, because on this one, Genesis, excuse me, you had Mama, That's All, Legal Alien. That was some of their hits from that one. Then you had Genesis, Calling All Stations. That's another one of theirs. And then you had Live, Genesis, and The Way We Walk. Volume 1, the short one. I think this must have been like a because on it it's Land of Confusion, No Son of Mine, Jesus, He Knows Me, Throw It All Away, I Can't Dance, Mama, Hold On to Your Heart, That's All, In Too Deep, Tonight, Invisible Touch. That was on the short one. And the last one that I've got is called We Can't Dance. That was the album and that. This came out in 91, and at the end it was because they did an album called Then There Was Three, when it was like the lineup was Phil Collins, Tony Banks and Mike Rutherford, but they had other session drummers with them, session people and that, because after Peter Gabriel left, they tried to get another singer, but in the end they decided that Phil Collins would take over the singing role and that, and he went on to be the front man, and they got a drummer in to take over his part. Their last concert, because they came from Surrey. They was originally from Surrey, because they started in 67 but disbanded in 2022 after 55 years together. And Phil Collins was that not very good in health. He ended up, when they did the tour, one tour, sitting in a chair because he couldn't stand. So that's my little chat about the band Genesis and how they changed and how everybody went off, because Peter Gabriel went solo. I've actually done a video about Peter Gabriel and his successful career. Phil Collins went and did a few albums. He did Face Value. I forget the other two. He did a couple of studio albums, but he came back to Genesis. And this is where I say a fond farewell, and I hope you enjoy my little chat about the English band called Genesis and a bit about their history and how they changed over the years and the lineups. And I hope you enjoy this. And if you want to follow me for more, you're more than welcome to come and join. It's your choice. And just press the thumbs up, the notification. If you want to put comments, you're more welcome to put comments. And I'll say a fond farewell for today. And whenever you watch this, morning, noon and night, I hope you enjoy it. And I'll say goodbye for now.